Do you always struggle with confidence when it comes to speaking English? Or do you always doubt yourself when you have to speak in front of other people? If yes, then this video is for you. A lot of you have been studying English for years, and when it comes to talking to your teacher in English, you're comfortable with the idea because your teacher won't judge you. They've been through the same thing, they made the same mistakes when they were learning, but the thought of talking to a native speaker in English might be terrifying to you because you don't want to get judged. You don't want to put yourself in a situation which you would get judged. So here's how to fix this problem, because you have to fix it at some point. You learn English because you want to communicate with people across the board. What's the point of learning English if you cannot have a real conversation? I'm going to introduce 3 steps for you to take to fix this problem. Let's get to the first step, mindset shift. For explaining it to you, I'm going to categorize English learners into 2 groups. The first group of students are those ones who speak English correctly. They usually have no or very few mistakes, but they constantly doubt themselves, and this hesitation lowers their speed and makes them sound less fluent. For example, in the middle of speaking, when they are speaking to their teacher or someone else, they constantly pause and ask themselves or the teacher they're speaking to whether the grammar they're using is correct, the vocabulary is correct. They usually say, is this the right thing to say? Did I make any mistakes? And this overthinking stops them from expressing themselves fully and being able to communicate in English confidently. So if you belong to this first group, chances are that the only problem is you holding yourself back. And the moment you stop this overthinking, the moment you express yourself freely and be okay with the fact that you might make mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes because even native speakers do, that moment when you realize and accept this is the moment that you start to speak English confidently because you're not worried about anything anymore. However, this was related to the first group of language learners. The second group of language learners are those ones who lack confidence because they're not able to speak English fluently and clearly. They make mistakes all the time in terms of vocabulary and grammar. So if you belong to the second group of language learners, then this feeling, this lack of confidence and insecurity is valid, and it's a sign that you need to start improving your English. So no mindset shift is needed here, and you need to do some hard work to solve this problem. Step 2, improvement. You need to start paying attention to how native speakers speak, form sentences, tell different stories, and how they pronounce different words. And you also need someone to check your speaking from time to time and give you feedback. That person can be your teacher, can be a friend, or can get help from ChatGPT or AI applications. After some time of doing this, you start to trust yourself because you know what you're saying is correct because you heard it from a native speaker before. And when you're speaking, sentences and the right words just come and flow, and you don't need to think about them anymore because you practiced them before and you can use the right word naturally without having to think about it. Also, sometimes you might not feel confident even though you speak English correctly because you're not familiar with formal and informal language. For example, in a formal setting like an interview or a meeting, you might feel nervous because what if you make a mistake and say something informal? So for getting over this obstacle and for solving this problem, you need to do serious search on formal and informal language. There are a bunch of videos out there on this topic, and you can get help from ChatGPT as well. Step 3 of boosting your confidence is gaining real-life experience. Of course, you don't feel confident when you've never been in an environment where you could have real conversations. When you talk to a native speaker, it's not practicing anymore. It's serious, and sometimes it might feel weird because a lot of you considered learning English as a lesson that you have to study, not a skill that you have to practice. Also, in the very first stage of exposing yourself to the language, you might not feel comfortable with having conversations, face-to-face conversations with native speakers. So in that case, you can go for texting or talking on the phone. For example, you can engage in comments under some posts or videos on YouTube. Imagine that you watched the trailer of your favorite movie, and in the comment section there are some people who commented on the plot of the story. You can reply to their comments and share your ideas with them as well. You can sometimes disagree, and hopefully if the other person responds, you can have a conversation, and that can be a long conversation if the disagreement continues. So that's one of the ways of texting for improving your English. Also, another way, another method which works for students who are in the process of applying to universities in English speaking countries, one thing you can do is that you can call the admission offices in those universities, and you can ask them questions about the process and the application. At first, if you're not comfortable with this, you can write down the questions and you can read it from paper. No one's gonna know because you're talking on the phone. They're not looking at you. You can easily do that. And after some time, you'll get more comfortable and you can ask them questions and have conversations with them without taking any notes in advance and without having to read questions from paper. So after practicing like this for a while, you'll gradually boost your confidence. That is it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video has been helpful for you, and I hope that you'll be a confident English speaker really soon.